Well, I mean, the crucial point of confusion is that we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is it's intellectually ridiculous. Even it gets.
So hold on. Are you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is...
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
No, it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people. And that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so not.
It's like saying those you're a shifty Jew.
You're not listening to what we are saying.
You guys are saying if you want to be liberals, believe in liberal principles like freedom of speech, like we are endowed by our forefathers with an inalienable rights, like all men are created equal.
Ben, we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad.
In the high-stakes battlefield of the arena of ideas, liberal ideals face off against deep-rooted religious traditions. On one side, Bill Maher and Sam Harris take the spotlight, outspoken defenders of free speech and sharp critics of what they view as moral flaws in Islamic teachings. They argue that key liberal values like gender equality, freedom of expression, and minority rights are at risk when certain ideologies go unchecked in parts of the Muslim world. For them, real progress requires honest criticism, even if it means being labeled Islamophobic. On the other side stands Ben Affleck, passionately defending a broader view. He argues that Maher and Harris paint with too wide a brush, ignoring the diversity of over 1 billion Muslims. Their critiques, he warns, can create harmful stereotypes and push away those who already reject extremism. Affleck pushes back, saying they're blaming an entire religion for the actions of a radical fringe, while missing the reformers, the peaceful majority, and the brave voices challenging extremism from within. In the intense setting of real time, where every word lands hard, these opposing views crash together, not just debating Islam, but wrestling with the very identity and future of liberalism itself.
We have
That's
ideas
just a fact.
like blasphemy.
It is
an ugly
apostasy.
It's basic liberal
let me
principle
unpack it.
tolerance.
Let me unpack it.
But not for intolerance.
No, of course not. But the picture you're painting is, to some extent, true, but is hugely incomplete. It is certainly true that plenty of fanatics and jihadis are Muslim, but the people who are standing up to them, Malala, incredible Muhammad Ali Dadak in Iran, in prison for 9 years for speaking up for Christians. A friend that I had in Pakistan who was shot this year, Rashid Rahman, for defending people accused of apostasy.
Or how about the more than 1 billion people who aren't fanatical, who don't punch women, who just want to go to the store,
wait a second. Wait a second.
Don't do any of the things that you're saying all Muslims
wait a second.
Wait.
Stereotyping. Wait a second.
Things, and you're painting the whole group religion with that.
Bill Maher, Sam Harris, and their allies believe that liberal values, like free speech, gender equality, and protection of minorities, should apply everywhere, across all cultures and religions. To them, these aren't Western ideas, but universal human rights. Yet, Maher and Harris claim many liberals avoid holding Islamic societies to these same standards. They argue there's a double standard, one that shows up when people hesitate to criticize harmful practices within Islam, especially around women's rights and limits on free speech. That silence, they say, often comes from fear of being called Islamophobic or intolerant. But that fear, in their view, allows oppressive customs to go unchallenged. Maher and Harris believe that standing for true liberalism means having the courage to speak out, even if the topic is sensitive or controversial. They argue that ignoring abuse just because it happens under a religious label weakens the core of liberal principles. But not everyone agrees. Ben Affleck strongly pushes back. He's frustrated by what he sees as sweeping generalizations and defends the broader Muslim community. So, how will they face off on this tough issue? Let's dive in and see where the real debate takes us.
let's get down to who has the right answer here. 1 billion people, you say. All these billion people don't hold any of these...
1.5 or something.
Don't hold these pernicious beliefs?
No,
I wouldn't.
well, they don't.
That's just not true, Ben. That's just not true.
Can I just express how I think it breaks down in terms of
The idea...
You haven't even defined
you're trying to say that these few people, that's all the problem is, these few bad apples. The idea that someone should be killed if they leave the
That's
Islamic...
horrible. That should...
Wait, you're saying that the
fairway
idea
of
that
Islam.
someone should be killed if they leave the Islamic religion is just a few bad apples?
The people who would actually believe and enact that you murder somebody if they leave Islam is not the majority of Muslims at all.
Okay, let me break this down for you. Okay, we have, as you say, we have 1.5, 1.6 billion Muslims. Now,
second biggest religion in the world, a quarter.
Well,
Ben, let me unpack this. Let me unpack this for you.
Please do.
We have just imagine some concentric circles here. You have at the center, you have jihadists. These are people who wake up in the morning wanting to kill apostates, wanting to die trying. They believe in paradise. They believe in martyrdom. Outside of them, we have Islamists. These are people who are just as convinced of martyrdom and paradise and wanting to foist their religion on the rest of humanity, but they want to work within the system. They're not going to blow themselves up on a bus. They want to change governments. They want to use democracy against itself. Those two circles arguably are 20% of the Muslim world. Okay, this is not the fringe of the fringe.
That research on?
A bunch of poll results that we can talk about. So to give you one point of contact, 78% of British Muslims think that the Danish cartoonist should have been prosecuted. 78%. So I'm being conservative when I roll this back to 20%. But outside of that circle, you have conservative Muslims who can honestly look at ISIS and say that does not represent us, that we're horrified by that, but they hold views about human rights and about women, about homosexuals that are deeply troubling. So these are not Islamists, they're not jihadists, but
those views are anathema to ours.
But they also keep women and homosexuals immiserated in these cultures, and we have to empower the true reformers in the Muslim world to change it. And lying about the link between doctrine and behavior is not going to do that.
But the Great Divide.
Sam Harris introduces what he calls the nuance model, an idea meant to explain the wide range of beliefs across the Muslim world. At the center of this model are jihadists, individuals fueled by extreme ideology who believe in violence, martyrdom, and enforcing religious laws through terror. Though they're a small group, Harris sees them as the most dangerous face of Islam, willing to kill in the name of faith. The next layer out includes Islamists. Unlike jihadists, Islamists don't usually resort to violence, but they share similar goals, replacing secular governments with Islamic rule. Harris argues that they often work through politics, running for office, building influence, while aiming to implement religious law from within. They may speak the language of democracy, but their long-term goal, Harris claims, is a religious state. Beyond that, in the outer circle, are conservative Muslims who aren't violent or political, but still hold beliefs Harris sees as clashing with liberal ideals, especially on women's rights, religious freedom, and social equality. He says this group makes up a large portion of the global Muslim population and, while peaceful, may still uphold traditions that limit personal freedoms. Through this model, Harris argues that the problem isn't just a few extremists. It's a broader cultural spectrum that includes deeply rooted beliefs resistant to liberal change. To him, real reform means recognizing this full range, not just the violent fringe, but also the more subtle forces that shape society. It sounds persuasive, but now the spotlight shifts. Let's see how Ben Affleck challenges this idea.
Where was that story to sort of create a different picture?
What is your solution? What is your ask?
No,
just condemn Islam?
The solution is very much what
we've killed more Muslims than they've killed us by an awful lot. We've invaded more Muslims.
I am not for more killing.
An awful lot. Yet somehow we're exempted from these things because they're not really a reflection of what we believe in. We did by accident. That's why we invaded Iraq and put 4 million people.
We're not convincing anybody.
It's not I'm specifically telling you that I disagree with what you think.
I know, and we're obviously obviously not convincing
understand
anybody
it.
of you.
If you don't understand my argument,
Your argument
then
is
have an
like,
agreement.
black people, they show each other.
That is not my argument.
No, it's not. It's based on facts. I can show you a Pew poll of Egyptians. They are not outliers in the Muslim world that say like 90% of them believe death is the appropriate response to leaving the religion. If 90% of Brazilians thought that death was the appropriate response to leaving Catholicism, you would think it was a bigger deal.
I would think it's a big deal no matter what.
Okay, but that's the fact.
you don't.
But what I wouldn't do is say it's all Brazilians, or I wouldn't say, well, Ted Bundy
When
did
have I
this.
said
Goddamn,
it's
these
all
gays are all
Brazilians?
trying to eat each other.
Yeah, okay, let me just give you what you want. There are hundreds of millions of Muslims who are nominal Muslims, who don't take the faith seriously, who don't want to kill apostates, who are horrified by ISIS, and we need to defend these people, prop them up, and let them reform their
Dude, you're
faith.
talking ISIS couldn't fill a AA ballpark in Charleston, West Virginia, and you were making a career out of ISIS.
But no, it's not just ISIS. It's all jihadists. It's global. It's a phenomenon of global jihad.
I think that's the opposite.
There is those things. There's ISIS, there's global jihadists. The question is the degree to which you're willing to say, because I've witnessed this behavior, which we all object to on the part of these people, I'm willing to flatly condemn those of you I don't know and have never met.
No,
this is
not
based
condemning
on
people. It's ideas.
And,
gotta make
and
distinction.
people who believe in those
Yes, and
ideas.
they're behaving-
So it's people who believe in it.
Based on reality, Ben.
based
We're
on
not
action.
making it up that there is that in the Muslim world it is mainstream belief